Let's take a look at a couple diagrams and start to understand what's going on behind the scenes with steps 2, 3, and 4. So first off, data transfer objects, or DTOs. DTOs are not exclusive to Nest.js, so there are many other languages and frameworks out there that make use of DTOs, or data transfer objects, quite a bit. The goal of a DTO is to carry information or carry data between two places, frequently in the form of network requests. Data transfer objects usually do not have any kind of functionality tied to them. They are simple classes that list out a couple of different properties. So you can really think of a data transfer object as being a very clear description of what some form of data looks like as it is being sent along inside of a request. Next up, 3 and 4. So first off, 3. When we started to add some validation rules to our DTO, so this isString thing right here, we had very quickly installed the class validator package and another package called the class transformer. So I want to show you some information around those two packages very quickly. First, we're going to take a look at some documentation around the class transformer package. You can find a link to the GitHub page for class transformer right there. So I'm going to pull that up inside my browser very quickly. Class transformer is a simple package that takes a plain object and converts it into an instance of a class. So let's take a look at some code inside of here in the README to help you understand what's going on. Now, if you want to pause the video right here and take a look at the first section of the README that says, what is class transformer? That would be very helpful. I recommend you do that. Otherwise, we're going to take a look at a code snippet. So inside this code snippet right here, you can see that they've got some plain JSON data. These are plain objects inside of an array. There are no methods, no functionality tied with these objects. The goal of this class transformer package is to take those objects and turn them into instances of a class. For example, each of these objects right here might be turned into an instance of class user. And once we have instances of class user, we would then have some methods associated with each of those things as well. So class transformer is all about automating the process of turning these plain JSON objects or plain JavaScript objects into a much more fully featured instance of a class. Secondly, we've got class validator. So once again, I'm going to pull up the documentation for that right here. Class validator is a package by the same people, same project, that handles validation of properties on a class by using decorators. On this README, we're going to scroll down a little bit to the table of contents section, and then go down towards the bottom of the list of all these links, and we want to find a link right here called validation decorators. So these are a variety of different decorators that we can use to validate very particular properties inside of a class. So we made use of one called isString. Here it is right here. But there are other decorators that allow us to make sure that a property is a date, is a Boolean, is an integer, array. We can make sure that a number is positive, negative. We can make sure that a date has a minimum date or a maximum date. You can see that there are just a wide variety of different validation options inside this package. So again, this library is all about doing validation of properties on an instance of a class through the use of decorators. All right, so now that we've got these two libraries in mind, let's now take a look at the entire full flow, or at least most of it for right now. So here's how everything works together with the validation pipe. So our server is receiving a request. That request is now going to flow automatically into the validation pipe. The validation pipe goes through 3 different steps. First, the validation pipe is going to use that class transformer package automatically to turn the body of that incoming request into an instance of the DTO class. So this body right here is turned into an instance of createMessage DTO, and that has a ton of validation information attached to it through the use of these decorators. Now that we've got an instance of the DTO class, the validation pipe is then going to make use of class validator to actually validate that instance. So that step is where the validation pipe is going to take a look at these decorators. It's going to use these decorators to validate the different properties we have on the instance of our createMessage DTO. Once that validation is executed, the validation pipe is going to see if any validation errors occurred. If there were any validation errors, it's going to immediately send back a response to whoever made this request. Otherwise, the request will be passed on to our request handler defined inside of our controller. So that's what's going on behind the scenes with the validation pipe. Internally, validation pipe makes use of class transformer and class validator to do all this validation stuff for you automatically. In turn, class transformer is responsible for taking this plain JSON body of our request, so this plain JSON object right here, and turning it into an instance of our create message DTO that has all that validation information attached. And once again, class validator is responsible for actually taking that instance, validating it, using information from those decorators, and providing the validation result back to validation pipe. Now, a lot of this stuff you don't really need to know. The reason I'm telling you all this stuff inside this course is that you can start to understand some of the stuff that kind of seems like magic that's going on behind the scenes with Nest. There's a lot of functionality in Nest that really is very dissimilar from many other TypeScript or JavaScript frameworks. A lot of the stuff really is kind of magic. There's no kind of very obvious connection between exactly what is defined inside this create message class right here and the actual validation process. Okay, so now there's one last thing I want to go over. We're going to take a quick pause and then discuss it. But one thing we didn't really discuss is how we added in the type of create message DTO right here and how the validation pipe understood that type. Because remember, during this validation process, class transformer is going to turn the body into an instance of specifically the DTO class. So in this case, an instance of create message DTO. And the question is, how did the validation pipe know to turn the body into an instance of create message DTO? Because we have only put in create message DTO right here. This is the only place we have made use of that class. We've applied it as a type annotation on a function. And remember, when we write TypeScript, our application first gets turned into JavaScript, and then it gets executed. And when we do that process of converting from TypeScript over to JavaScript, in theory, what we are always told is that all type information is lost at that point in time. So in theory, this little type piece of information right here doesn't really exist when our application is executed. So again, how does the validation pipe know that it's supposed to turn the incoming body into specifically a create message DTO instance? That's the big question. So let's take one more pause right here and start to investigate that in just a moment.